So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Azula? So let's start the series. The first thing Naruto noticed wasn't the strange architecture or the unfamiliar scent in the air. It was the silence. One moment, he was mid-stride on the muddy battlefield, the echo of 1,000 shouts and the clash of weapons ringing in his ears, reaching for a comrade who was falling. The next, there was nothing. A void. A complete absence of sound that was more jarring than any explosion. Then, sensation returned in pieces. First, the ground beneath him. It was hard. Stone, not mud. Polished, like the floors in the Hokage's mansion, but darker. A faint, geometric pattern ran through it, cool against his palms. Second, the smell. Smoke. Not the acrid, chakra-laced smoke of a battlefield, but something cleaner. Wood smoke. Incense. And underneath it all, a faint, sweet perfume that seemed wrong, somehow. Too calm. He pushed himself up, his muscles coiled and ready. His senses, honed by war, screamed at him. Unknown location. Unknown threats. His chakra stirred beneath his skin, a familiar, comforting warmth in the cold unknown. He was in a room. A wide, open space with high ceilings and walls made of sliding paper doors. Flickering light from paper lanterns cast long, dancing shadows. It was sparse, elegant, and utterly alien. No Konoha. No battlefield. No Kurama's roar in the back of his mind, just a watchful silence. His gaze swept the room, and stopped. She was sitting by a low table near the open veranda, the night air carrying the scent of the garden inside. She was young, maybe a little older than him, with dark hair pulled back in a severe topknot and eyes that held the color of molten gold. She wasn't looking at him. Her attention was fixed on a small cup of tea she held in both hands, her posture impossibly straight. She wore the regalia of a royal, but there was no softness in the lines of her shoulders, no idle curiosity in the way she held herself. It was the stillness of a predator that had already decided you weren't a threat. Yet. Naruto didn't move. He didn't speak. He just watched her, his breathing evening out, the frantic energy of the war slowly banked into a low, steady flame of awareness. A long moment passed. The only sound was the faint crackle of a lantern wick. Finally she spoke, her voice smooth, controlled, and devoid of any surprise. You're not from here. It wasn't a question. Naruto's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. She took a slow, deliberate sip of her tea. The guards at the outer wall are dead. Not killed. Just asleep. The doors to the courtyard were sealed from the inside. And yet here you are. She finally turned her head, those golden eyes fixing him with an unnerving, analytical focus. You're either a ghost, a spirit, or the most accomplished assassin in the world. And you don't carry yourself like an assassin. He saw it then. Beneath the perfect composure, in the slight, almost imperceptible tension at the corner of her eye. She wasn't afraid. She was curious. But it was a dangerous kind of curiosity, the kind a scientist might have when a new, unknown specimen appeared in their lab. He was something to be figured out. Catalogued. And then, perhaps, dealt with. He finally spoke, his voice rough from the battle dust that still clung to him. Where is this? The Fire Nation Royal Palace, she said, as if stating the weather. My home. Another pause. She set her cup down, the soft clink of ceramic on wood unnaturally loud in the quiet. I am Princess Azula. Names meant power here. He could feel it in the way she offered hers, like a challenge. He didn't offer his in return. He just looked at her, his blue eyes, hardened by years of loss and war, meeting her golden ones. He saw the rigid control, the perfect mask. He'd worn a mask himself once, a long time ago. A loud, obnoxious one to hide the loneliness. Hers was different. Perfectly crafted. Invisible, except to someone who knew what to look for. A flicker. Something passed behind her eyes. Not confusion. A recalculation. He hadn't reacted the way people usually did. No fear. Just a tired, watchful stillness. You're a soldier, she stated, her eyes tracing the lines of his worn, battle-scarred jacket, the dirt ground into the fabric. From a war. A different one than ours. She leaned forward a fraction, a minute shift in her center of gravity that put him on higher alert. What's the last thing you remember? He thought of the fallen comrade. The scream caught in his throat. The mud. Chaos, he said, the single word heavy. A ghost of a smile touched her lips, there and gone in an instant. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had just had a theory confirmed. Chaos, she repeated, tasting the word. I'm familiar with it. It's what happens when things don't go according to plan. She rose from her seat in one fluid, graceful motion. She was tall, her movements precise and economical. She walked towards him, not with the swagger of a fighter, but with the assured glide of someone who knew every inch of the space was hers. She stopped a few feet away, close enough to be a statement, far enough to be safe. "My father, the Fire Lord, is currently concluding a war that will unite the world," she said, her tone conversational. "It requires a great deal of order, structure. Chaos is the enemy of that." She was studying him again, but differently now. More intently. "You appear out of thin air in the heart of that order. My first instinct is to see you as a threat to be eliminated." Naruto didn't flinch. Didn't reach for a weapon. He just met her gaze, letting the silence stretch. "But," she continued, the word hanging in the air, "my first instinct is not always my only one." She tilted her head, a bird-like movement. "You're tired. I can see it in the way you hold your weight. You're wary, but not aggressive. You haven't attacked, haven't tried to flee. You're assessing." Her golden eyes narrowed slightly, the temperature in the room seeming to drop a degree. "So I'll ask you again. Who are you?" He could feel it. The manipulation starting. She was laying out a path, offering a sliver of safety in exchange for information. It was a test. He'd seen it before, in the calculating looks of village elders, in the cool demeanor of ANBU interrogators. Give her a name, and she'd own a piece of him. He thought of Sasuke. Of the years of trying to pull someone back from a dark path. He felt the familiar, bone-deep weariness of that struggle, and something else. A caution he'd learned the hard way. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You can't force someone to see the light. He looked past her, out the open veranda. The sky was a deep, stardusted indigo, untainted by the orange glow of war. It was peaceful. A lie of a sky. "I don't know," he said finally, his voice low. "I don't know who I am here." It was the truth. A simple, honest truth. He was Naruto Uzumaki, but that name meant nothing in this place. He was a soldier without a war, a Jinchuriki without a tailed beast he could feel, a man without a home. The admission hung in the air, raw and unguarded. For the first time, something genuine flickered across Azula's face. It wasn't pity or sympathy. It was recognition. A flash of something deep in her golden eyes, a crack in the perfect mask so fast he almost missed it. She knew what it was like to not know who you were, underneath all the expectations, all the control. She buried it instantly, her expression smoothing back into polished stone. But he'd seen it. "You're tired," she said again, but this time the words held a different weight. A practical one. "And you're of no use to anyone exhausted. Especially yourself." She gestured with a slight nod towards a corridor leading from the room. "There are guest quarters that way. The third door. You'll find it unlocked. No one will disturb you tonight." It was a tactical retreat. A way to end the encounter on her terms, to observe him from a distance. She was giving him an inch, but only to see how he would take it. Naruto looked at her, then at the corridor. Every instinct screamed at him not to turn his back on her. But his body ached with a bone-deep fatigue that went beyond the physical. He was tired of fighting battles he didn't understand. For one night, he just wanted to close his eyes. He gave her a single, curt nod. He didn't say thank you. He didn't bow. He just turned and walked towards the corridor, his footsteps silent on the polished stone. He felt her gaze on his back like a physical pressure, analyzing the way he moved, the way he held himself. He didn't look back. He found the room. It was simple, clean, with a futon rolled out on the floor. He sat on its edge, not lying down, and stared at the wall. He could still feel the phantom hum of the battlefield in his bones. He thought of her eyes. The perfect mask, and the single, fleeting crack he'd seen beneath it. It wasn't loneliness he'd seen there. It was something colder. The look of someone trapped behind a wall of their own making, who had long since stopped trying to find the door. A slow burn unease settled in his stomach. He wasn't a guest. He was a variable in a calculation she was still running. And he had just walked deeper into her territory. Outside, on the veranda, Azula stood perfectly still, her gaze fixed on the darkness where he'd disappeared. The faint, pleasant smile was gone from her lips. Her face was a mask of cold, analytical thought. Interesting. He was strong. That much was obvious from his bearing. He was also genuine. A rare commodity. He had looked at her and hadn't seen a princess, hadn't seen power. He'd seen something else. Something that had made her feel, for a fraction of a second, like a specimen under a microscope. It was unsettling. And unsettling things needed to be understood. She picked up her cup of tea. It was cold. She didn't notice. She had offered him a room. A safe place. A simple act of, what? Hospitality? Mercy? No. She had given him a cage. And tomorrow, she would begin to learn its locks. The night held its breath. Two damaged people in a palace of power, each sensing the fractures in the other, each wondering if the other was a key or a weapon. The first move had been made. The game, whatever it would become, had begun. He didn't sleep. Not really. He lay there on the futon, staring at the ceiling, listening. The palace had sounds. Distant footsteps. The murmur of voices too far to understand. A bird somewhere outside. It was too quiet. Back home, even in the quiet moments, you could feel the village breathing around you. Here, everything felt held. Like the whole place was waiting for something. His mind kept drifting back to her. Those eyes. The way she looked at him like he was a puzzle she was already solving. He'd met people like her before. Not many. Orochimaru had that same patient, dissecting quality. So did some of the elders in the village, the ones who watched you from the shadows and never said what they were really thinking. But she was different. Younger. And there was something else underneath the cold. He'd seen it. That flash of something real before she'd locked it away. He didn't trust it. Didn't trust her. Didn't trust himself, either, if he was being honest. Because part of him, some stupid part that never learned, wanted to understand what that flash meant. When pale light started seeping through the paper walls, he finally sat up. His body protested. Everything hurt. The war had been running on fumes for days before he'd ended up here. He rolled his shoulders, felt the familiar pull of muscles pushed too far, and stood. No point hiding in here forever. The door slid open easily. The corridor was empty, stretching in both directions with identical paper walls and wooden beams. He picked a direction randomly and started walking. He found a garden. It opened up suddenly, the corridor giving way to a wide courtyard with a pond at its center. Koi fish drifted beneath the surface, orange and white, moving slow like they had nowhere to be. Trees curved over the water, their branches carefully arranged. Everything about it was deliberate. Controlled. Nature forced into shapes it wasn't meant to take. He stood at the edge and just breathed. The air was cleaner here. No smoke. No death. It felt wrong somehow. Like his lungs didn't know what to do with air that wasn't thick with battle. "You're up early." Her voice came from behind him. He didn't turn around immediately. Let her wait. Let her wonder if he'd flinch. He didn't. "Couldn't sleep," he said finally, still watching the fish. Footsteps on stone. She came to stand beside him, close enough to be in his peripheral vision but not close enough to touch. She was dressed differently now. Still formal, still perfect, but in lighter colors. Morning clothes. Like she'd been awake for hours already, arranging things. "Most people find the garden calming," she said. "My mother designed it. Before she left." The way she said it? Left. Not died. Not passed away. Left. Like it was a choice. Like it was still happening. He glanced at her. Her face was smooth, composed. No emotion. But she'd offered the information voluntarily. That meant something. He just wasn't sure what. "Your mother," he said. Not a question. A pause. The fish rippled the water surface. "Yes." Another pause, longer this time. She couldn't handle the pressure of royal life. Weakness runs in some bloodlines. He heard it. The thing she wasn't saying. The thing she maybe didn't even know she was revealing. The way her voice tightened almost imperceptibly on the word weakness. Like she was trying to convince herself. He didn't respond. Just stood there, letting the silence breathe. After a moment, she turned to face him fully. He felt the shift, the way her attention focused like a blade being drawn. The personal moment was over. The analysis was back. "I've had inquiries made," she said. "Discreet ones? About your appearance last night. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. You simply manifested." She tilted her head. "That's either very fortunate for you, or very concerning for me. Which one are you leaning toward?" The ghost of a smile. Not warm. Amused, maybe? "I haven't decided yet. You're an unknown quantity. I prefer known quantities. They're easier to predict. And you like predicting things." "It's not about liking." Her golden eyes held his. "It's about survival. In my family, the ones who couldn't predict what came next didn't last." He thought about that. Thought about his own family, or lack of one. The loneliness of growing up with no one to teach you, no one to warn you. He'd had Irika, eventually. Jiraiya. People who'd shown him the way because they wanted to, not because they had to. What would it have been like growing up with people you had to predict just to survive the night? "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. It came out quieter than he intended. "Or your family. Or whatever war you've got going on. I don't even know how I got here. She studied him for a long moment. Searching. Testing. Finally, she nodded, just once. I believe you. For now. She turned away from the garden, facing back toward the palace. But belief is a fragile thing. It changes. It breaks. She started walking, and after a step paused, looking back at him over her shoulder. Come. If you're going to be here, you should at least understand where here is. Consider it an education. It wasn't a request. But it wasn't quite an order either. It was an invitation wrapped in control, a chance to see more of her world while she watched how he reacted to it. He followed. The palace was bigger than he'd imagined. They walked through corridors that opened into halls that opened into more corridors. Servants passed, bowing low, never meeting her eyes. Guards stood at attention, their armor unfamiliar, their gazes tracking him but saying nothing. Everyone moved like they were walking on glass. She talked as they walked. Not constantly, but in measured bursts. Pointing out rooms, explaining functions, dropping pieces of information like breadcrumbs. That's the war room. My father meets with his advisors there every morning. They bring him reports from the front lines. Casualty numbers. Territory gained. Progress. She said it flatly, like she was reciting a grocery list. And you? He asked. You don't go? A slight pause in her step. Just a fraction. Then smooth again. I attend when invited. My brother is the favored one. The heir. I am. She stopped walking, turning to face a large set of doors they'd come to. Her hand rested on the carved wood. I am the spare. Useful, but not essential. Powerful, but not trusted. She pushed the doors open. It was a throne room. Massive. At the far end, on a raised dais, sat an empty throne. Fire motifs everywhere. Gold and red and black. The air felt heavier in here, like the room itself was holding its breath. He sits there, she said, walking toward it. Her footsteps echoed. And he decides the fate of nations. Who lives? Who dies? Which cities burn and which are spared? She stopped before the throne, not mounting the steps, just standing at their base. Looking up at it. He's my father. And I love him. And I am also terrified of him. Both things can be true. He stayed by the doors. Didn't follow her in. Something about crossing that space felt wrong, like stepping onto sacred ground without permission. She turned to face him, the throne at her back. The distance between them felt huge suddenly, even though she was only maybe 30 feet away. You want to go home? She said. It wasn't a question. I can see it in you. That pull. That weight. You left something behind. Someone. He didn't answer. Couldn't. His throat had closed up. Sakura, she said softly. Sasuke. Kakashi. Names I overheard you murmur in what passed for your sleep last night. You were reaching for them. Calling out. His blood went cold. He hadn't realized he'd spoken. Hadn't realized she'd been watching him sleep. She saw the shift in him, the tension that flooded his shoulders. Held up a hand. I'm not threatening them. I can't. They're not here. They may not even exist in this world. She took a step closer, then another. But they're real to you. Which means they're a weakness. And weaknesses. She trailed off, letting him finish the thought. Can be used, he said flatly. Yes. No apology. No softening. Just the truth, laid out like a blade on a table. I'm not saying I will use them. I'm saying I could. And you should know that. You should know what kind of person you're standing in front of. He looked at her. Really looked. Saw the perfect posture, the controlled voice, the way her hands hung at her sides precisely, not relaxed but not tense either. Everything about her was calculated. Everything was a performance. Except there was something in her eyes now. A challenge, yes, but also something else. Something almost like hope? No. That wasn't right. Not hope. A test. She was showing him exactly who she was, and waiting to see if he'd flinch. He didn't. I've stood in front of worse, he said. People who actually hurt me. People who tried to break me. You're not there yet. She blinked. Just once. The smallest crack. And you think I could be? She asked. Quietly. Genuinely curious. I think everyone can, he said. Doesn't mean they will. The silence that followed was different. Heavier, but not in a bad way. Like something had shifted between them, some understanding reached without words. She turned away first, breaking eye contact to look back at the throne. My father wants to meet you, she said. I told him about our guest. He's curious. She glanced back at him. He's not as patient as I am. Not as willing to observe and learn. He acts. Quickly. Decisively. Sometimes correctly. Sometimes not. And if he decides I'm a threat? Another pause. Longer this time. Then I won't be able to protect you. The words hung in the air. She hadn't said she would protect him. Just that she wouldn't be able to. The distinction mattered. He filed it away. When? He asked. This afternoon. After the War Council. She finally stepped away from the throne, walking back toward him. As she passed, close enough that he could smell that same faint perfume from last night, she paused. Try not to be disappointing. He hates disappointment. Then she was past him, through the doors, and gone. He stood alone in the throne room, staring at the empty seat of power, and wondered what kind of man could make his own daughter terrified of him while still being loved. The afternoon felt very far away and very close all at once. He found his way back to the garden eventually. Sat by the pond. Watched the fish. Thought about Sasuke, about Sakura, about Kakashi. Thought about the war, about the friends he'd lost, about the ones still fighting without him. A servant appeared silently with a tray of food. Rice. Fish. Some kind of pickled vegetables. He ate without tasting it, just fueling the machine. His mind kept circling back to her. Azula. The way she'd warned him. The way she'd shown him the blade and told him it could be used. That wasn't manipulation. That was, what? Honesty? A warning? A test to see if he'd run? He wasn't going to run. He'd never been good at running. The afternoon sun was high when another servant came to collect him. This one was older, more formal, wearing robes that marked him as something higher than the others. He didn't speak, just bowed and gestured for Naruto to follow. They walked deeper into the palace than he'd been before. Past more guards, through doors that required keys. The air grew warmer, thicker. Like they were approaching something hot. The room they finally entered was smaller than the throne room, more intimate. A long table dominated the center, maps spread across its surface. Men in armor stood around it, their conversations dying as he entered. And at the head of the table, seated in a chair that was almost a throne itself, sat a man. Fire Lord Ozai. He was older than Naruto expected. Not old, but weathered. His face was sharp, angular, with a trimmed beard and eyes that held the same golden color as Azula's. But where hers were analytical, searching, his were flat. Empty. Like looking into a fire that had already consumed everything around it, and was waiting for more fuel. So, Ozai said, his voice quiet but carrying absolute authority. The ghost appears. No one moved. No one breathed. Naruto stood in the doorway, meeting that flat gaze, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. The urge to fight. To run. To do anything but stand still under those eyes. He stayed still. Your daughter said you wanted to see me, he said. His voice came out steady. Good. Ozai's eyes flickered. Surprise? Annoyance? Hard to tell. My daughter said many things about you. That you appeared from nowhere. That you carry yourself like a soldier but wear no colors. That you look at princesses like they're ordinary people. He leaned forward slightly. That last one concerns me most. She's not ordinary, Naruto said. But I've met royalty before. Doesn't change much. A long pause. The men around the table shifted uncomfortably. Where are you from? Ozai asked. Far away. Far away where? Further than you've been. Someone sucked in a breath. Ozai's eyes narrowed. The temperature in the room seemed to rise. You have a smart mouth for someone in my palace, uninvited, with no explanation for how you arrived. I have a smart mouth everywhere. Comes with the territory. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly, Ozai laughed. It wasn't a warm sound. It was sharp, surprised, like he hadn't expected to find anything amusing in years. You're either very brave or very stupid, he said. I haven't decided which. Everyone's deciding things about me today, Naruto said. Must be my lucky day. Ozai's laughter cut off. The amusement vanished, replaced by something colder. You'll stay in the palace. Under observation. My daughter seems interested in you. That's useful. She's rarely interested in anything outside her own pursuits. He waved a hand dismissively. Entertain her. Answer her questions. And if you try to leave, if you try to harm anyone in my court, if you so much as look at my family wrong. He let the thread hang. Naruto understood. Understood completely. He was a prisoner. A curiosity. A toy for a princess who collected interesting things. But he also understood something else. Ozai had just confirmed what he'd suspected. Azula wasn't just calculating and cold. She was isolated. Alone. Her father saw her interest in Naruto as useful, not as something genuine. He didn't know his daughter at all. And that knowledge? That was power. Of a kind. He bowed slightly, not deeply, and turned to leave. One more thing. Ozai's voice stopped him at the door. He looked back. The Fire Lord was watching him with those flat, empty eyes. If you hurt her, if you break her focus, her usefulness, I'll make you wish you'd never been born. And then I'll keep going. Naruto looked at him for a long moment. I know what it's like to lose people, he said quietly. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Not even you. He left before Ozai could respond. She was waiting in the corridor outside, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Well? She asked. He's exactly what you said he was. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. She pushed off the wall, falling into step beside him as he walked. No destination in mind. Just moving. He threatened you, she said. It wasn't a question. Yeah. About me. He glanced at her. She was watching him sideways, waiting. Yeah. A pause. They walked in silence for a moment. He does that, she said finally. Claims to protect me. But it's not me he's protecting. It's his asset. His weapon. She said it flatly, like she'd accepted this long ago. I'm useful to him. That's the only reason I'm still here. The only reason any of us are still here. Naruto stopped walking. She stopped too, turning to face him. He's wrong, Naruto said. About you. Her eyes flickered. Just barely. You're not just useful. You're. He struggled for the word. Not good. She wasn't good, not in the way he understood good. But she was more. More than a weapon. More than an asset. You're human. Underneath all of it. He doesn't see that. She stared at him for a long, breathless moment. The mask flickered. Cracks appeared. For just a second, he saw the girl underneath. The one who'd designed a garden with her mother. The one who'd learned to predict threats because no one else would protect her. The one who'd been told her whole life that love and fear were the same thing. Then the mask slammed back down. You don't know me, she said quietly. You've been here one day. You don't know anything. No, he agreed. I don't. But I know what it looks like when someone's been told their whole life that they're not enough. That they have to be more, do more, prove more, just to deserve to exist. His voice dropped. I know because I lived it. She didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stood there, golden eyes locked on his, something raw and wounded flickering in their depths. I'm not your friend, she said finally. I'm not your project. I'm not someone you can save with a speech and a sad look. I know. Then what do you want? He thought about it. Really thought. The war. The friends he'd left behind. The endless fighting, the endless trying to reach people who didn't want to be reached. Sasuke's face, turning away from him again and again. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe just, to not be alone. For a little while. The words hung between them. Honest. Raw. Unprotected. She looked away first. Stared down the corridor, at nothing. Neither do I, she whispered. So quiet he almost didn't hear. Then she straightened, the mask sliding perfectly back into place, and started walking again. Come on. There's more to see. And I have questions about this chakra of yours. It's not bending, but it's similar. I want to understand it. He followed. Because what else was he going to do? But something had changed. A door had cracked open, just slightly. And through that crack, he'd seen something he recognized. Loneliness. The real kind. The kind that ate at you from inside. He'd spent his whole life fighting that loneliness. Hers had turned into something else. Something harder. Something that might cut him if he got too close. He followed anyway. That was the problem with him. He always followed. Always reached out. Always got cut. But sometimes it was worth it. He was still hoping this would be one of those times. Even though everything he'd learned so far suggested it wouldn't be. Even though her eyes, when she'd whispered those words, had looked more lost than anyone he'd ever seen. Even Sasuke, at his worst, had known who he was. What he wanted. She didn't. Underneath all the control, all the calculation, all the perfect princess armor, she had no idea. And that, more than anything, was what scared him. 3 weeks. That's how long he'd been here. 3 weeks of waking up in that same room, eating meals brought by silent servants, walking through gardens that felt too perfect to be real. 3 weeks of her. She came every day. Sometimes morning, sometimes afternoon, sometimes late when the palace had gone dark and everyone else was asleep. She'd find him wherever he was, the garden, the training yard, the quiet corridor where he'd taken to watching the sunset, and she'd just appear. Like she'd known exactly where he'd be. Probably did. She asked questions. Endless questions. About his world, his war, his friends. About chakra and jutsu and tailed beasts. She wrote things down sometimes, in a small notebook she carried, her script precise and small. Other times she just listened, those golden eyes tracking every word, every pause, every shift in his voice. He answered. Not everything, but enough. He'd learned long ago that giving a little could protect the rest. And she wasn't asking about weaknesses, not really. She was asking because she was curious. Because his world was different, and different fascinated her. Today she'd found him in the training yard. A small one, tucked away behind the kitchens, mostly used by guards who didn't want to walk to the main grounds. He'd been running through katas, the familiar movements grounding him in a world where nothing else felt solid. She'd watched for 10 minutes before announcing herself. Your form is efficient, she'd said, stepping out of the shadow of an archway. Not beautiful. Not traditional. But efficient. You've trained for survival, not demonstration. He'd kept moving. Something like that. I want to see it. The chakra. What it can do. He'd stopped then, turning to face her. She stood at the edge of the yard, arms loose at her sides, that analytical look on her face. The one that said she was cataloging everything. It's not he'd said, the word coming out wrong. Not a show. It's part of me. Using it when I don't need to feels wrong. She tilted her head. You think I'm asking for entertainment? I think you're asking for information. Same thing with you. A pause. Then the smallest smile. Not warm, but genuine. You're learning. He'd gone back to his katas. She'd stayed, watching in silence until the sun started to drop and the shadows grew long. Now they were in the garden. The same one from that first morning, with the koi pond and the carefully shaped trees. She'd brought tea this time, setting up a small service on a flat stone by the water. 2 cups. She poured with the same precision she did everything. You're restless, she said, handing him a cup. I've noticed. The way you pace. The way you look at the horizon. You're waiting for something. He took the cup. Didn't drink. Waiting for a way home. And if there isn't one? The question hung in the air. Honest. Brutal. She didn't soften things, didn't wrap them in comfort. He'd learned that about her too. Then I figure something else out. She nodded, like she'd expected that answer. Like she'd been testing him and he'd passed. I've been researching, she said. Old texts. Spiritual theories. The sages who study the boundaries between worlds. She sipped her tea. There are stories. Legends. People appearing from nowhere, vanishing the same way. Usually they're considered spirits or demons. Burned or banished. That's comforting. You're still here. She set her cup down. That means something. Either you're not a threat, or you're too valuable to eliminate before we understand you. A pause. I've been arguing for the first option. It's not easy. He looked at her. Really looked. The fading light caught her face, softening the sharp edges. For a moment she looked almost young. Almost normal. Why? He asked. Why argue for me? She didn't answer immediately. Watched the fish for a long moment, their orange shapes moving slow through the dark water. Because you look at me, she said finally. Not at the princess. Not at the weapon. Not at my father's daughter. You look at me. She turned to face him. No one does that. No one has ever done that. He didn't know what to say. Didn't know if there was anything to say. I'm not good, she continued, her voice quieter now. I know what I am. What I've done. The people I've hurt. The ones I'll hurt in the future. That's not going to change because you showed up and looked at me differently for a few weeks. I know. Then what are you doing here? Really? Sitting in my garden, drinking my tea, answering my questions. What do you want? He thought about it. The same question she'd asked before. The same answer, almost. I don't want anything from you, he said. I see you. That's all. Someone should. Her breath caught. Just barely. A tiny hitch that she probably thought he didn't notice. You're an idiot, she whispered. Probably. A naive, optimistic idiot who thinks people can change. Maybe. She stood up abruptly, turning away from him. Her back was straight, rigid. Controlled. My brother is coming home tomorrow, she said, her voice steady again. The mask back in place. Prince Zuko. He's been away. Fighting in the war. Trying to capture the Avatar. A pause. He's going to fail. He always fails. And father will humiliate him. Like he always does. Naruto stayed sitting. Didn't push. Didn't move. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Because you needed someone to hear it. She didn't respond. Just stood there, facing away, the last light painting her in gold and shadow. You should go inside, she said after a long moment. It gets cold here at night. You're not used to it. It was a dismissal. He recognized that. But it was also something else. Concern, maybe? Or the closest she could get to it. He stood, leaving the tea untouched on the stone. Walked past her, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her skin. Firebenders ran warm, he'd learned, and paused. Tomorrow, he said. If you meet someone too. I don't know. Just be there. I'll be here. He didn't wait for a response. Just kept walking, back through the garden, into the palace, toward his room. Behind him, Azula stood alone in the dark, watching the fish, not moving for a very long time. The next day was different. He felt it the moment he woke. Tension in the air, thick as smoke. Servants moved faster, spoke softer. Guards were stationed at doors that had been unguarded before. Something was happening. He found his way to the main courtyard and understood. A ship was docking at the palace's private harbor. A warship, scarred and battered, its flags hanging limp in the still air. Figures moved on its deck, preparing to disembark. He wasn't the only one watching. Windows overlooking the courtyard were filled with faces. Servants, officials, guards. Everyone wanted to see. The ramp lowered. A young man walked down it. He was about Naruto's age, maybe a little older. His face was marked by a burn scar, red and twisted, covering the left side from forehead to jaw. His posture was rigid, shoulders back, chin up, but his eyes were defeated. He carried failure like a physical weight. Behind him came a small group. An old man in robes, a young girl with wild hair and fierce eyes, a larger man with an arrow tattoo on his forehead. Zuko. The banished prince. The failure. And behind them all, standing at the top of the ramp, watching with an expression Naruto couldn't read, was Azula. She moved then, walking down to meet her brother. Her steps were measured, graceful. The perfect princess greeting the disgraced son. Naruto watched from the edge of the courtyard, hidden in shadow. Watched her embrace Zuko, her face arranged in welcome. Watched the tension in Zuko's shoulders, the way he flinched slightly at her touch. Watched her lead him into the palace, her hand on his arm, guiding him like he was a guest instead of family. Something about it made his stomach turn. He found her that night in the garden. Same place. Same stone by the pond. She was sitting alone, no tea this time, just staring at the water. He didn't announce himself. Just sat down next to her, close enough to feel her warmth, far enough to give her space. For a long time, neither of them spoke. He hates me, she said finally. Quietly. Zuko. He's always hated me. Even when we were children. I was better at everything. Stronger. Smarter. More loved by father. A pause. He doesn't remember the good parts. The games we played. The way he used to make me laugh. Naruto stayed quiet. I used to protect him. From the other children, from the tutors who were too harsh. He doesn't remember that either. Her voice cracked, just slightly. Or maybe he does and it doesn't matter. Maybe all he sees now is the scar. The banishment. The years of suffering while I stayed here, warm and safe. You didn't feel safe. She looked at him. In the dim light, her eyes looked almost human. No. I didn't. I never have. The admission hung between them. Raw. Real. I know what it's like, he said. To have someone hate you. Someone who should love you instead. He thought of Sasuke. Of all the times he'd reached out, all the times he'd been pushed away. It doesn't stop hurting. But it also doesn't mean you're wrong. For trying. For caring. I don't care about him. Liar. She sucked in a breath. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. A real laugh, surprised out of her. It was short, almost painful sounding, but real. No one calls me a liar, she said. No one. Someone should. She looked at him for a long moment. Then away. Tomorrow there will be a war council. Father will announce his plans. The conquest is nearly complete. Only the Earth Kingdom remains. She paused. And then he'll deal with Zuko. Publicly. Brutally. To remind everyone what happens to failure. You sound sure. I know my father. Her voice went flat. I know what he's capable of. I've learned to predict him the way you learned to predict a storm. You can't stop it. You can only find shelter and wait for it to pass. And if someone tried to stop it? She turned to him sharply. No. Don't even think it. You don't understand. You can't just. She stopped herself. Took a breath. He would kill you. Not quickly. Not mercifully. He would make it last, and he would make me watch, and then he would find something else to hurt because that's what he does. Naruto met her eyes. Held them. I've been through worse. You've been through nothing like this. They stared at each other. A challenge. A standoff. Finally, she looked away. Just stay out of it. Please. The word sounded strange from her. Foreign. Like she didn't use it often. I can't. I don't want to watch that. You being destroyed because you thought you could fix things. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to him. The most vulnerable. Okay, he said. For now. She nodded once, then stood. I should go. Zuko will be looking for me. Not because he wants to see me, but because he wants to watch me, to figure out my angle. He always thinks I have an angle. Don't you? She paused. Looked back at him. Everyone has an angle. The difference is whether they admit it. She started walking, then stopped. He's not like you, you know. Zuko. He's angry. Bitter. He's spent years blaming everyone but himself. You've been through something. I can see it. But you came out the other side different. Softer, maybe. Or harder in a different way. She shook her head. I don't know. I'm not good at people. You're better than you think. She didn't respond to that. Just walked away, disappearing into the dark. Naruto stayed by the pond, watching the fish, thinking about what she'd said. Harder in a different way. Maybe she was right. The war had changed him. Losing Jiraiya, watching Neji fall, carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. He wasn't the same kid who'd chased after Sasuke with nothing but hope and stubbornness. But some things hadn't changed. The need to reach out. The belief that no one was beyond saving. Was that stupid? Maybe. Probably. But it was also the only thing that had ever kept him going. He stayed in the garden until the stars came out, then longer. And when he finally went inside, he passed a window overlooking the courtyard and saw two figures standing in the moonlight. Zuko and Azula. Brother and sister. Separated by a gulf of pain and history and their father's cruel games. They weren't speaking. Just standing, maybe 10 feet apart, both facing the same direction. Like they'd forgotten how to be close but couldn't quite walk away. He watched for a moment, then continued to his room. Some things, he was learning, couldn't be fixed. Could only be sat with. Witnessed. Maybe that was enough for now. The next morning, everything changed. He woke to shouting. Not distant, not muffled. Close. Angry. He was on his feet before he was fully awake, moving toward the sound without thinking. Through corridors, past servants pressed against walls, toward the throne room. The doors were open. Guards flanked them, but they didn't stop him. Maybe they didn't know what to do. Maybe they were too focused on what was happening inside. He stepped through and saw Ozai on his throne, face like carved stone. Zuko on his knees before him, head bowed. And Azula, standing to the side, her face a perfect mask of nothing. Failure after failure, Ozai was saying, his voice quiet but carrying. Year after year. Ship after ship. And now you return with nothing. No avatar. No honor. Nothing but excuses and that scarred face I've grown tired of looking at. Zuko said nothing. Just knelt there shaking. I should banish you again. Send you back out with nothing. Let you wander until you starve or someone kills you. Ozai leaned forward. But that would be mercy. And you don't deserve mercy. Naruto's hands clenched at his sides. He could feel his chakra stirring, responding to the anger rising in his chest. This wasn't right. None of this was right. Azula's eyes found him across the room. Widened slightly. A tiny shake of her head. Don't. He stayed where he was. Barely. Get up, Ozai said to Zuko. Get out of my sight. I'll decide your fate later. When I have the stomach to look at you again. Zuko rose, slowly, painfully. He didn't look at anyone as he walked out. Past Naruto without seeing him. Gone. The room emptied. Officials, guards, everyone eager to be anywhere else. Soon only Ozai, Azula, and Naruto remained. Ozai's gaze shifted to him. You, he said. The ghost. You look angry. Naruto didn't answer. Careful. That anger could get you killed. Maybe. Ozai studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was worse than his anger. You remind me of someone. Someone I used to know. Someone who thought they could stand up to me and make a difference. He stood, walking down from the throne, toward Naruto. He's dead now. Has been for years. He stopped close, too close. Naruto could feel the heat radiating from him, smell the smoke that always clung to firebenders. You're a curiosity. That's all. My daughter finds you interesting, so I let you live. But curiosities can be disposed of. Remember that. He walked past, out of the room, leaving silence behind. Azula hadn't moved. Still stood in her spot, face frozen. Naruto crossed to her. You okay? She blinked. Looked at him like she'd forgotten he was there. I'm fine. Automatic. Reflex. No, you're not. She met his eyes. For a second, just a second, the mask slipped. He saw exhaustion there. Fear. Something that looked almost like grief. He's going to kill him, she whispered. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. Zuko's going to push too far, fail too badly, and father will end it. She swallowed. And I'll watch. Because that's what I do. I watch and I calculate and I survive. You don't have to. Yes. I do. Her voice hardened. You don't understand this place. This family. The only way out is death. Mine or his, and I'm not ready for either. She pulled away, walking toward a side door. Stay away from Zuko, she said without looking back. Stay away from my father. Stay in the garden or your room or wherever else is safe. This isn't your fight. The door closed behind her. Naruto stood alone in the throne room, surrounded by gold and red and the memory of cruelty. She was wrong. This was his fight. Not because he knew these people, not because he had any stake in their war. But because he'd spent his whole life watching people hurt each other, and doing nothing. Because he'd learned, the hard way, that standing by was the same as participating. Because she'd asked him to stay out of it, and he'd heard the fear in her voice. Not fear of him. Fear for him. No one had been afraid for him in a long time. He walked out of the throne room, not toward the garden, not toward his room. Toward the wing where Zuko had disappeared. Some fights you couldn't walk away from. Even when you should. Even when everyone told you to. Especially then. He found Zuko on a balcony. Small one, tucked away at the end of a corridor no one used. The prince was just standing there, hands on the stone railing, staring out at the ocean. Didn't turn when Naruto walked up. Didn't acknowledge him at all. Naruto leaned against the wall. Didn't crowd him. Just waited. Minutes passed. The sun was high, burning off the last of the morning fog. Waves crashed against the cliffs below. Seagulls called somewhere distant. She sent you? Zuko's voice was rough. Used up. No. A pause. Zuko glanced back at him, quick, then away. You're the one everyone's talking about. The ghost who appeared in Azula's room. He laughed, short and bitter. Trust her to find the most interesting thing in the palace. She always did have a talent for that. Naruto didn't respond. What do you want? Nothing. Everyone wants something. Maybe. Naruto pushed off the wall, came to stand beside him at the railing. Not too close. Looking out at the same water. I just figured you might not want to be alone right now. Zuko stared at him. Really stared, like he was trying to figure out if this was a trick. Some new form of cruelty. You don't know me, he said finally. No. You don't know what I've done. What I've failed to do. What everyone expects from me. No. Then why are you here? Naruto thought about it. Thought about all the times he'd stood on the edge of something, alone, wishing someone would just show up. Not to fix it. Just to be there. Because someone should be, he said. That's all. Zuko's face did something complicated. Anger, confusion, something that might have been hope if hope hadn't been beaten out of him years ago. He looked away quickly. My father humiliated me. In front of everyone. In front of her. His hands gripped the railing tighter. He's been doing it my whole life. Every time I come back, every time I fail, he finds a new way to remind me that I'm nothing. Naruto said nothing. Just listened. I used to think if I captured the Avatar, if I brought him home, everything would change. Father would love me. The court would respect me. I'd have a place again. His voice cracked. But I can't catch him. Can't even get close. And every time I fail, it gets worse. The punishments, the looks, the way everyone whispers when I walk by. He turned to Naruto, and for a moment he looked young. Younger than he should. Like a kid who'd been hurt too many times and didn't know how to stop hurting. You know what it's like? To try so hard, give everything, and still not be enough? Naruto met his eyes. Yeah, he said quietly. I know. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe? The kind you can't fake. My best friend, Naruto said after a moment. He left. Chose power over everything we had. I've been trying to bring him back for years. Years. And every time I fail, every time he pushes me away, it hurts the same as the first time. He looked back at the ocean. People keep telling me to give up. That he's gone. That I'm wasting my time. But I can't. He's my brother. Not by blood, but he's my brother. Zuko was quiet for a long time. What's his name? Sasuke. Sasuke. Zuko tested the word. He's lucky. To have someone who won't give up on him. He doesn't think so. They never do. They stood there, two people who understood failure in their bones, watching the water move. He found Azula that night in the garden. Same place. She was sitting on the stone by the pond, but she wasn't looking at the fish. She was looking at him. You went to see him? It wasn't a question. Yeah. Why? He sat down next to her. Not too close. Far enough that she could pretend he wasn't there if she wanted. Because he needed someone to not be alone. She made a sound. Not quite a laugh. Something smaller. You think that's going to help? Sitting with him? Listening? She shook her head. He's been alone for 3 years. Chasing an impossible mission, failing over and over, getting burned a little more each time. You can't fix that with an afternoon on a balcony. No, he agreed. But you can start. She looked at him. In the dim light, her eyes were hard to read. You really believe that? Don't you? That people can be reached. That connection matters. Her voice was quiet. Not mocking. Just wondering. I've seen it happen. Where? In your world? With your Sasuke? The question hit harder than it should have. He didn't answer right away. He's not back yet, he said finally. But I haven't stopped trying. And neither have the people who love him. Sakura. Kakashi. Even people who should hate him, after everything. He paused. One day, something will get through. I have to believe that. Otherwise, what's the point? Azula was silent for a long moment. You're either the strongest person I've ever met, she said softly, or the most delusional. I haven't decided which. Could be both. She laughed. Actually laughed. It was short, surprised out of her, but real. It changed her face, softened it. For a moment she looked like someone else. Someone who hadn't been shaped by cruelty. Then it was gone, and she was looking at him with those analytical eyes again. My father is planning something, she said. With Zuko. He hasn't told me what, but I can read him. There's going to be a test. Some impossible task. And when Zuko fails, because he will fail, there will be consequences. Like what? I don't know. But I've learned to prepare for the worst. She paused. I'm telling you this because you need to stay away from it. From him. When it happens, you can't be involved. My father will use anything, anyone, to make his point. If you're connected to Zuko, even loosely, he'll find a way to hurt you through it. You sound like you care what happens to me. She went still. Completely still, like he'd said something dangerous. I care about understanding you, she said carefully. You're the first unpredictable thing in my life in years. That's valuable. I don't want it destroyed because you can't mind your own business. He looked at her. Saw the walls going up, the mask sliding into place. But he also saw something underneath. Something that looked almost like fear. Okay, he said. I'll be careful. She nodded. Stood. Walked away without another word. He stayed by the pond, watching her disappear into the dark, wondering if she even knew what she was feeling anymore. Wondering if she'd forgotten how to name it. 3 days passed. He saw Zuko a few times, always from a distance. The prince moved through the palace like a ghost, avoiding everyone, speaking to no one. His crew, the old man, the girl, the big guy with the arrow, stayed close, forming a protective circle around him. They looked at everyone else like they expected attack at any moment. He saw Azula every day. She found him in the training yard, in the garden, in the corridor where he watched sunsets. Always with questions. Always with that analytical gaze. But sometimes now, there was something else. A hesitation before she spoke. A flicker in her eyes when he answered. Small things. Easy to miss. He didn't miss them. On the 4th day, everything changed. He was in the training yard, working through forms, when he heard it. Shouting from inside the palace. Not angry shouting. Something worse. He ran. Found the source in the throne room. Same as before. Ozai on his throne. Zuko on his knees. Officials and guards pressed against the walls, watching. But this time was different. You will serve as proof, Ozai was saying, his voice carrying cold and clear. Proof of what happens to those who fail this family. Who bring shame to our name. Zuko said nothing. His head was bowed, but his shoulders were shaking. Azula. Ozai's voice shifted. Come here. She stepped forward from where she'd been standing. Her face was perfectly blank. A mask so complete it looked carved from stone. You will be the one to do it. A ripple went through the room. Whispers. Zuko's head came up, his eyes finding his sister. What? His voice was raw. No. Father, please. Silence. Ozai didn't even look at him. His eyes were on Azula. He is a failure. A disgrace. But he is also my son, and I will not have his blood on my hands. You, however. He leaned forward. You have always understood. That love is weakness. That family is obligation, not sentiment. Prove it. Azula didn't move. Didn't speak. Her face gave nothing away. Naruto's hands clenched at his sides. He could feel his chakra rising, responding to the anger burning in his chest. This was wrong. All of it. Azula. Ozai's voice hardened. I gave you an order. She moved then. Walked toward her brother, each step measured, precise. Stopped in front of him. Looked down at his face, at the scar, at the fear in his eyes. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then she knelt. Knelt in front of him, bringing herself to his level. Reached out, slow, and touched his face. The scarred side. Gentle. I'm sorry, she whispered. So quiet, only those closest could hear. And then she stood. Turned to face her father. No. The word hung in the air like smoke. Ozai's eyes narrowed. What did you say? No. Her voice was steady. Controlled. But Naruto could see her hands trembling at her sides. I won't do it. Not this. Not him. The silence that followed was suffocating. No one moved. No one breathed. Ozai rose from his throne. Walked down the steps, slow, deliberate. Stopped in front of his daughter. You defy me? She swallowed. I'm asking you not to make me do this. Asking. The word dripped with contempt. You don't ask, Azula. You obey. That's your purpose. Your only purpose. He backhanded her across the face. The sound was sharp. Horrible. She stumbled but didn't fall, didn't make a sound. Just stood there, cheek reddening, eyes fixed on some point in the distance. Zuko surged to his feet. Don't touch her. Guards grabbed him before he could move. Held him fast. Ozai ignored him. Kept his eyes on Azula. You've disappointed me, he said quietly. After everything I gave you. Everything I taught you. You choose him? This failure? He shook his head. I expected better. He turned away, walking back toward his throne. Both of you will be dealt with. Later. When I decide what appropriate punishment looks like. He sat down, waved a hand. Get them out of my sight. Guards moved. Dragged Zuko toward the doors. Azula walked on her own, head high, not looking at anyone. As she passed Naruto, their eyes met. For just a second, the mask slipped. He saw everything underneath. Fear. Pain. And something else. Something that looked almost like relief. Then she was past him, gone. He stood in the crowd of officials and guards, heart pounding, hands shaking. Wanting to move. Wanting to do something. Knowing he couldn't. Not here. Not now. But later. Later, he would find her. He searched for hours. Every place he knew. The garden. Her rooms, guarded now, couldn't get close. The training yard. The corridor where they'd watch sunsets. Nothing. It was almost midnight when he found her. Not in any of the places he expected. She was in the kitchens. Of all places. Sitting on the floor against the wall, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them. The great ovens were cold this time of night, the space dark and empty. She looked up when he entered. Her face was blotchy, eyes red. She'd been crying. He'd never seen her cry. Didn't think she could. Go away. He didn't. Walked over, slid down the wall next to her. Sat close enough to feel her warmth. Didn't say anything. Minutes passed. He's never hit me before, she said finally. Voice wrecked. Screamed at me, yes. Threatened. But never. She touched her cheek, where the mark was already fading. I didn't think he would. I didn't think. He shouldn't have. She laughed. Broken sound. Shouldn't have. Like that matters. Like what should happen and what does happen have anything to do with each other. She pulled her knees tighter. I knew what he was. I always knew. I thought if I was perfect enough, useful enough, valuable enough, he wouldn't turn it on me. Stupid. You're not stupid. I am. I'm the biggest fool in this whole palace. She looked at him, and in the darkness her eyes were huge. Lost. I stood up for Zuko. For my brother. After years of watching him suffer, of telling myself it was his fault, his failure, his weakness. I stood up for him and look what happened. You stood up for him, Naruto said quietly. That's not nothing. It changed nothing. Maybe. Maybe not. He paused. But he saw it. Everyone saw it. Your father saw it. That matters. Even if it doesn't feel like it right now. She stared at him for a long moment. Why do you do that? She asked. Do what? Find the thing that's not completely hopeless and hold on to it like it's everything. He thought about it. Thought about all the battles, all the losses, all the times he'd wanted to give up. Because if I don't, he said slowly, then the hopelessness wins. And I can't let that happen. Not to me. Not to the people I care about. She went still at those last words. People you care about, she repeated. Quiet. Like she was testing them. Yeah. You care about me? He met her eyes. Held them. Yeah. I do. She didn't look away. Didn't mask. Just sat there, raw and real and terrified, and let him see her. I don't know what to do with that, she whispered. Nothing. You don't have to do anything. Just let it be there. A long silence. Somewhere in the palace, a clock struck midnight. I've never had anyone care about me, she said. Not really. My mother left. My father, he cares about what I can do, not who I am. Zuko used to, maybe, before everything. But not anymore. Not for a long time. She swallowed. I didn't think I needed it. Didn't think it mattered. And now? She looked away. Now I don't know what I think. They sat in the dark kitchen, two people from different worlds, both carrying more weight than anyone should. The ovens were cold, but the space between them wasn't. I should go, she said eventually. If they find me missing, if my father decides to check on me. She trailed off. Didn't move. You can stay a little longer. She looked at him. That same searching look, but softer now. One day. she said quietly. You're going to leave. Find a way back to your world, your people. And I'll be here, alone again. He didn't have an answer for that. Couldn't promise something he didn't know. So he just sat with her, close enough to touch, not touching, and let the silence say what words couldn't. After a while, she leaned her head against his shoulder. Just slightly. Just for a moment. Then she stood, straightened her clothes, and walked out of the kitchen without looking back. He stayed on the floor, feeling the warmth where she leaned, and wondered how someone could be so strong and so broken at the same time. Wondered if maybe that was true of everyone. Wondered if maybe that was true of him too. The next morning, he woke to shouting again. Different this time. Not angry. Urgent. He ran. Found the courtyard filled with people. Guards, servants, officials. All looking up. At the top of the highest tower, two figures stood at the edge. Azula and Zuko. His heart stopped. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring protests, until he could see clearly. They were too far to hear, but he could see their postures. Zuko, arms spread, pleading. Azula, rigid, facing him, saying something. Then she moved. Not toward him. Away. Back from the edge. Zuko followed, and they disappeared from view. The crowd murmured. Guards rushed inside. Naruto stood frozen, heart pounding, waiting. Minutes passed. Forever. Then the palace doors opened and Azula walked out. Alone. Her face was pale, but composed. She walked straight to him, through the crowd that parted before her like water. Stopped in front of him. He was going to jump, she said quietly. Couldn't take it anymore. The shame, the failure, all of it. She swallowed. I talked him down. Naruto couldn't speak. Just looked at her. I told him he wasn't alone. That I understood. She stopped. Looked away. I told him I needed him. That I couldn't do this alone. Her voice cracked on the last word. And I realized, saying it to him, that it was true. She met his eyes. I can't do this alone. Any of it. I've been trying my whole life and I can't. The crowd watched. Whispers spread. Either of them cared. Naruto reached out. Slow, giving her time to pull away. Touched her hand. Just fingers, barely. She didn't pull away. You're not alone, he said. Not anymore. She looked at their hands. Then at him. Something shifted in her eyes. Not the mask coming down. Something else. Something that looked almost like trust. Okay, she whispered. Behind them, the palace loomed. Inside, Ozai waited. Zuko was somewhere, maybe safe, maybe not. The war continued. The world kept turning. But here, in this moment, two people stood in the wreckage of everything and held on. It wasn't a solution. Wasn't a happy ending. It was just a beginning. The smallest one. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be. The days after the tower were different. Not good different. Not healed different. Just shifted. Like something underground had moved, and now everything sat at a new angle. Azula came to him less. When she did, she was quiet. Not the calculating quiet she used to do, the watching and waiting silence. This was heavier. Like she was carrying something she couldn't put down. He didn't push. Just let her be there, next to him in the garden or the training yard, and waited. Zuko left. 3 days after the tower, he and his crew boarded their ship and sailed away. No ceremony. No goodbye. Just gone. Naruto watched from the cliffs as the ship got smaller and smaller, until it was just a speck on the horizon. He found Azula in the garden that night. He didn't say goodbye, she said. Not angry. Just stating it. He wouldn't know how. She looked at him. You always do that. Find the reason behind the thing. The excuse. Not an excuse. Just understanding. He sat beside her. He's been hurt so long he doesn't know how to let anyone close. Even you. Especially you. He's my brother. I know. She was quiet for a while. The fish moved slow in the pond, their orange shapes catching what little light the moon offered. I used to think I didn't need him, she said finally. Didn't need anyone. That was strength. Being alone, being enough, being everything to myself. Her voice dropped. I don't know what I think now. Naruto didn't answer. Just sat with her in the dark. A week passed. The palace settled into its usual rhythm. Ozai held councils. War news came and went. Servants moved through corridors with their heads down. Everything looked the same. But Naruto felt it. The tension underneath. Like waiting for a storm that wouldn't break. Azula started training again. He'd see her in the main yard sometimes, moving through fire-bending forms with that terrifying precision. Flames coiled around her limbs, responded to her slightest gesture. She was beautiful to watch. And terrifying. He stayed away during those sessions. Something about the way she moved, the focus in her eyes, felt private. Like watching someone undress. She found him afterward, always. Damp with sweat, still humming with the energy of the fire. They'd walk. Or sit. Sometimes talk, sometimes not. You should learn, she said one afternoon. They were in the garden, the air thick with heat. Fire bending. You have that chakra. It's similar. You could probably adapt. Not sure your father would like that. My father doesn't like anything. She paused. But he's not here right now. Gone to the colonies. Won't be back for weeks. Something in her voice. A weight he couldn't name. You want me to learn? He said. Why? She looked at him. Held his gaze. Because if something happens. If he comes for me, for Zuko, for anyone. I want you to be able to fight. Really fight. Not just with your hands and that strange energy you carry. You think something's going to happen. I always think something's going to happen. She looked away. That's how I've survived. He thought about it. Thought about the war he'd left, the friends still fighting without him. Thought about chakra and bending and whether they could work together. Okay, he said. Teach me. It was harder than he expected. Fire wasn't like wind or water. It demanded different things. Aggression, she said. Confidence. The willingness to destroy. He struggled with that. You're holding back, she said one afternoon, after he'd failed to produce anything but sparks. Every time. You start to create the flame, and then you pull away. Fire hurts people. Yes. That's the point. He lowered his hands. Looked at her standing there, perfect form, waiting. In my world, he said slowly, fire is just destruction. Mostly. There's fire techniques, sure. But they're for fighting. For killing. He paused. I've killed people. In the war. I don't like it. She studied him. That analytical look, but softer now. You think I like it? I don't know what you like. She was quiet for a moment. Then she moved. Walked to a small brazier at the edge of the training yard, one of the ones used for lighting torches. Held her hand over it, and a small flame rose to meet her palm. She cupped it, brought it close to her face. This is what my mother showed me, she said quietly. When I was small. Before she left. She said fire wasn't just for hurting. It was for warmth. For light. For life. The flame flickered in her palm. I forgot that for a long time. Forgot she ever said it. She looked at him. Maybe you need to learn the other part first. Before the fighting. He watched the flame in her hand. Small. Contained. Warm. Show me, he said. She did. Weeks passed. He learned. Slowly, awkwardly, but he learned. How to call fire without fear. How to shape it, feed it, let it live in his palm without trying to control it too tightly. She was patient in a way he hadn't expected. Never frustrated. Never mocking. Just teaching. In return, he showed her chakra. The feel of it, the way it moved. She couldn't access it, her body wasn't built that way, but she was fascinated. Asked endless questions. Took notes in that small book of hers. They spent hours together. Training, talking, sitting in silence. The palace continued around them, indifferent. Servants got used to seeing them together. Guards stopped watching so closely. It felt almost normal. Almost peaceful. He should have known it wouldn't last. It started small. A comment from a servant, overheard. Something about the princess and her pet foreigner. He ignored it. Then a guard, someone who'd always been polite, suddenly cold. Looking through him instead of at him. He ignored that too. Then the summons. A messenger found him in the garden. Young, nervous, barely meeting his eyes. The Fire Lord requests your presence. Immediately. Naruto's stomach dropped. When did he return? Last night. He followed the messenger. Through corridors he knew now, past rooms he'd learned to navigate. Into the throne room. Ozai sat on his throne. Alone. No advisors, no guards. Just him, waiting. Naruto stopped in the center of the room. Didn't bow. You wanted to see me. Ozai studied him. That flat, empty gaze. My daughter has grown, attached to you. The words were careful. Measured. I've received reports. Hours spent together. Training sessions. Late nights in the garden. She's been teaching me fire bending. Yes. I know. Ozai leaned forward slightly. Why? Because I asked? Did you? Not a question. A statement. And why would you ask? Why would a man from another world, another war, want to learn the fire bending of this one? Naruto met his eyes. Didn't look away. Because it's here. Because I'm stuck here. Because learning something new is better than doing nothing. A long pause. Ozai's face gave nothing away. You're lying, he said quietly. Not about all of it. But some of it. The important part. He stood. Walked down from the throne. Circled Naruto slowly, like a predator testing prey. You're attached to her too. I can see it. The way you hold yourself when you talk about her. The way your eyes track her when she enters a room. He stopped, facing him. You care about my daughter. Naruto said nothing. That's dangerous. For you. For her. For everything I've built. Ozai's voice dropped. She's not meant to be cared for. She's meant to be used. Sharpened. Aimed. You're dulling her. I'm not doing anything. You exist. That's enough. Ozai moved closer. I should kill you. Right now. And this before it goes further. Naruto's muscles tensed. Chakra stirred. But I won't. Ozai smiled. It was worse than his anger. Because she'd never forgive me. And right now, her attachment is useful. It keeps her focused. Keeps her here, training, improving. As long as you're useful to her, you're useful to me. He stepped back. But if that changes, if you become a distraction instead of a tool, if she starts choosing you over her duties, her family, her future, he let the thread hang. I'll remove you. And I'll make sure she watches. Naruto stood frozen. Hands clenched. Wanting to move, to fight, to do something. Knowing it would only make things worse. You're dismissed. He didn't move for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out. Didn't look back. He found her in the garden. Waiting. She knew. Of course she knew. What did he say? He told her. Everything. Watched her face go pale, then controlled, then something else. Something he couldn't read. He's not wrong, she said quietly. What? About me. About what I am. What I'm for. She wouldn't meet his eyes. I'm a weapon. I've always been a weapon. My father made me this way. And weapons don't get to care. Don't get to be cared for. That's not true. It is. Her voice was flat. Dead. You've been here what, 2 months? 3? You don't know me. Not really. You know the version I let you see. The one that's softer, quieter, more human. But that's not who I am underneath. Then who are you underneath? She finally looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. Wouldn't let herself. I don't know anymore. Her voice broke on the last word. I used to know. I was my father's daughter. His perfect weapon. His heir. And then you showed up and looked at me like I was a person. Like I mattered. Not for what I could do, but just because. She took a shaking breath. And now I don't know what I am. And it's terrifying. Because if I'm not his weapon, if I'm not that, then what's left? What's underneath all the training and the control and the perfection? Naruto stepped closer. Slow. Careful. What's left? He said quietly. Is you. The you that stood up for Zuko. The you that taught me fire isn't just destruction. The you that sat in a dark kitchen and leaned on someone because you needed to not be alone. She shook her head. That's not. It is. I've seen it. Maybe you haven't, not for a long time. But it's there. She stared at him. Searching. Desperate. What if that's not enough? She whispered. What if the other part, the weapon part, is stronger? What if I can't be anything else? Then we figure it out together. Together. She said the word like it was foreign, like she'd never tasted it before. Yeah. He reached out, slow, and took her hand. She flinched but didn't pull away. Together. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The garden was quiet. The fish swam slow in the pond. The world kept turning. Then she squeezed his hand. Just barely. Just enough. Okay, she whispered. That night, everything changed. He woke to smoke. Not kitchen smoke, not training smoke. Thick, acrid burning. The kind that came from structures on fire. He was running before he was fully awake. Through corridors filled with shouting, with servants fleeing, with guards trying to organize. Toward the source. The East Wing. Azula's rooms. Flames poured from windows. The door was blocked, collapsed beam. He could hear screaming inside. Her voice. High and terrified in a way he'd never heard. He didn't think. Just moved. Chakra flared, enhanced strength, and he was through the debris, into the inferno. The heat was unbelievable. His skin screamed. His lungs burned with every breath. But he kept moving, following her voice until he found her. She was trapped. A beam across her legs, pinned. The ceiling above her was starting to crumble. Her face was streaked with soot and tears, and when she saw him, something broke in her eyes. You came, she gasped. You actually. He didn't let her finish. Grabbed the beam, ignored the pain, ignored the fire licking at his arms. Pulled. Once. Twice. On the third try it moved. Just enough. She dragged herself free. He pulled her up, threw her arm over his shoulder, and ran. The ceiling came down behind them as they burst through the door. They collapsed in the corridor, coughing, gasping. Her legs were burned. His arms were worse. But they were alive. Guards surrounded them. Servants brought water. Someone was shouting orders. Through it all, she held on to him. Wouldn't let go. Her face buried in his chest, shaking. He held her back. Ignored the pain. Just held on. Later, much later, they sat in the garden. Bandaged. Bruised. Alive. It was him, she said quietly. Naruto looked at her. My father. Her voice was hollow. The fire started in my room. My private rooms. No one else has access. No one else could have done it. She swallowed. He tried to kill me. Why? Because I'm not his weapon anymore. Because I chose you. Because I stood up for Zuko. Because I'm becoming something he can't control. She laughed, broken. I always knew he could. Deep down. I just never thought he would. Naruto didn't know what to say. Didn't know if there was anything to say. I have to leave, she said. Tonight. Before he tries again. Before he succeeds. Where will you go? I don't know. Zuko, maybe. If he'll have me. If he can forgive enough. She looked at him. Come with me. The words hung in the air. Your world, she continued. Your people. I can't promise I'll find a way to send you back. But I can promise I'll try. And until then. She trailed off. He thought about it. About Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi. About the war still raging. About everyone he'd left behind. He thought about her. About the months they'd spent together. About the way she'd looked at him in the fire, like he was the only thing keeping her alive. I can't, he said. She flinched. Pulled back. I can't leave yet, he continued. Not because I don't want to. But because if I go with you now, running, he wins. He gets to define what we are. Fugitives. Threats. Enemies. What else can we be? I don't know. But I know running isn't the answer. Not for me. Not anymore. He met her eyes. I've spent years chasing people. Sasuke. Peace. Some version of myself that could fix everything. And it never worked. Because I was always running towards something, never just standing. Being. She stared at him. So what do we do? He thought about it. Thought about the war he'd left, the people waiting. Thought about the Fire Nation, Ozai, all of it. We stay, he said. We face him. Together. And we see what happens. That could get us killed. Yeah. He nodded. It could. She was quiet for a long time. The garden was dark around them, the palace looming behind. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Trust someone. Trust myself. Be something other than what I was made to be. Neither do I. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. But we figure it out. Together. That's the only way. She looked at their hands. Then at him. Together, she repeated, like she was testing the weight of it. Yeah. The fire had gone out in the east wing. Servants still moved, cleaning, repairing. Guards still watched, wary and uncertain. Somewhere inside, Ozai waited, already planning his next move. But here, in the garden, two people held onto each other in the dark. It wasn't safety. Wasn't peace. Wasn't anything like a happy ending. It was just two people, choosing not to be alone. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be. 3 days since the fire. 3 days of bandages and burned skin and her sleeping in the room next to his because she wouldn't go back to her own. 3 days of watching servants look at her different, guards look at her different, everyone look at her like she was already dead. She felt it too. He could tell. The way she held herself tighter. The way her eyes tracked every corner, every shadow, every person who got too close. He didn't ask if she was okay. She wasn't. They both knew it. On the 4th day, she told him about her mother. They were in the garden. Same place always. She'd started coming here every evening, like the fish and the water were the only things that made sense anymore. She used to bring me here, Azula said. Voice quiet. Not looking at him. When I was small. Before Zuko got his scar, before everything got complicated. She'd hold my hand and we'd watch the fish and she'd tell me stories. What kind of stories? Fairy tales. Myths. Things that weren't real. A pause. She said stories mattered because they showed you what was possible. What people could become. Naruto waited. I don't remember most of them now. Just the feeling. Sitting next to her, warm, safe. Her voice cracked. I thought she left because of me. Because I wasn't enough. Because I was too much. Both, maybe. That's not why people leave. How do you know? He thought about it. Thought about his parents, gone before he could remember. About the villagers who'd looked away, the ones who'd whispered. About Irika, the first person who'd stayed. I don't. Not really. But I know that people who leave, it's usually about them. Not you. She looked at him. That searching look. You really believe that? Yeah. I have to. She was quiet for a long time. The fish moved slow. The light faded. I dreamed about her last night, she said finally. My mother. She was standing at the end of a corridor, and I was walking toward her, and no matter how far I walked, I never got closer. She swallowed. I woke up and for a second I forgot where I was. Forgot everything. And then I remembered the fire, and my father, and you, and… She trailed off. And me. And you. She looked at him. You were in the dream too. At the beginning. Standing behind me. When I turned around, you were there. What did I do? Nothing. Just stood there. But when I looked at you, I could keep walking. Toward her. Even though I knew I'd never reach her. Naruto didn't know what to say. Didn't know if there was anything. I don't know what that means, she said. If it means anything. Maybe it doesn't have to mean anything. Maybe it's just a dream. Maybe. But she didn't sound convinced. The next day, Ozai summoned her. Naruto wanted to go with her. She said no. Said it would make it worse. Said she had to face him alone. He waited in the garden. Counted the fish. Watched the shadows move. She was gone 3 hours. When she came back, her face was white. Not pale. White. Like all the blood had drained out. What happened? She sat down on the stone. Didn't look at him. He knows about the dreams. About my mother. About everything. Her voice was flat. Empty. He has people everywhere. Servants who report. Guards who listen. Nothing happens in this palace that he doesn't know. Naruto sat next to her. Close. He said if I'm going to dream about her, if I'm going to dwell on the past, then I'm not fit for the future. Not fit to be his heir. She laughed. It was horrible. He's sending me away. To a colony. To find myself or lose myself or whatever he thinks will happen. When? 2 weeks. That's not. It's enough time. For him to plan. For me to. I don't know. Disappear. Be forgotten. She finally looked at him. He's not sending me to a colony. He's sending me to die. Some accident. Some rebellion. Something that won't trace back to him. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Her voice was certain. I've spent my whole life learning to read him. This is how he ends things. Quietly. Plausibly. With witnesses who saw nothing. Naruto's hands clenched. Then we leave. Tonight. Before he can. And go where? She turned on him. Zuko's ship is gone. Weeks ahead of us. We don't know where he is, where he's going. The Earth Kingdom is at war. Every port, every city, every village is watched. We'd be caught before we got 50 miles. Then we fight. Fight. She said it like the word was foreign. Fight my father? The Fire Lord? In his palace, surrounded by his guards, his firebenders, his everything? She shook her head. We'd last 5 minutes. Less. Then what? She was quiet. The longest quiet. I don't know, she whispered. For the first time in my life, I don't know. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. We figure it out, he said. Together. Like we said? She looked at their hands. Then at him. Together, she repeated. Like she was trying to believe it. The days passed. She trained harder than before. Woke before dawn, pushed herself until she couldn't stand, collapsed into bed. He trained with her, matching her intensity, pushing himself just as hard. At night they sat in the garden. Talked about nothing. Everything. Her childhood. His. The differences between their worlds. The things that were the same. She asked about Sasuke one night. Really asked, not just curious but wanting to understand. Why do you keep trying? After everything he's done? Naruto thought about it. The question he'd asked himself 1,000 times. Because he's my brother. Not by blood, but he's my brother. And brothers don't give up on each other. Even when they should. Even when it hurts. But what if he never comes back? What if you spend your whole life reaching and he never reaches back? Then at least I tried. At least he'll know somewhere that someone never stopped. He paused. That matters. Even if nothing else does. She was quiet for a long time. No one's ever tried for me, she said finally. Not like that. Not like you. Someone is now. She looked at him. In the dark, her eyes were hard to read. Why? The question hung between them. Because I see you, he said. The real you. Underneath all the armor. And that person is worth trying for. She didn't answer. Just leaned into him, slow, like she was testing whether he'd let her. He put an arm around her, pulled her close. They sat like that for a long time. The fish moved. The night deepened. Neither spoke. The night before she was supposed to leave, everything changed. They were in the garden. Same place. Same silence. Both of them pretending tomorrow wasn't coming. A servant appeared. Not one of the regulars. Someone new, young, nervous. Princess. He bowed. There's someone at the gate. Asking for you. Azula frowned. Who? He says he's your brother. She was on her feet before the words finished. Naruto followed. They ran through corridors, past guards, to the main gate. And there, standing in the torchlight, was Zuko. He looked worse than before. Thinner. Darker circles under his eyes. But alive. Here. Zuko. Azula stopped short. Stared. He stared back. Neither moved. I heard, he said finally. Voice rough. About the fire. About what he tried to do. A pause. About you standing up for me. Before I left. How did you? Doesn't matter. He took a step forward. I came back. To help. If you want it. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there, frozen. Naruto watched. Saw the war on her face. Hope and fear and disbelief all tangled together. Why? She asked. Quiet. Zuko met her eyes. Because you're my sister. And I've spent too long pretending that doesn't matter. The silence stretched. Then Azula moved. Walked to him. Stopped inches away. I tried to hurt you, she said. So many times. For so long. I was cruel, and I was cold, and I told myself it was because you were weak. But really it was because I was scared. Scared of what? Of losing you. Of being alone. Of becoming what he wanted me to become. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Zuko looked at her for a long moment. Then he opened his arms. She fell into them. Cried. Actually cried, loud and ugly and real. He held her, awkward at first, then tighter. Naruto watched from the shadows. Felt something shift in his chest. Maybe this was what it looked like. The beginning of something. Not fixed, not healed, but started. They talked for hours. In the garden, the three of them. Zuko told them about his journey, about the avatar he'd been chasing, about the crew that had stayed with him anyway. Azula told him about the fire, about their father, about everything. Naruto mostly listened. Watched them circle each other, test each other, slowly find a rhythm that wasn't quite comfortable but wasn't hostile either. We need to leave, Zuko said finally. All of us. Tonight. Before he finds out I'm here. Where? Azula asked. I have contacts. People who hate my father as much as we do. It's not safe, but it's somewhere. She looked at Naruto. He nodded. She turned back to Zuko. Okay. They left at midnight. No bags. No goodbyes. Just three people slipping through a servant's entrance, down to the harbor, onto a small boat Zuko had hidden. As they pushed off, Azula looked back at the palace. Lights still burned in some windows. Somewhere inside, her father was probably sleeping, dreaming of power and control and all the things he'd never really have. What are you thinking? Naruto asked. She was quiet for a moment. I'm thinking about my mother. About the garden. About all the years I spent trying to be what he wanted. She looked at him. I'm thinking I should have left sooner. Better late than never. She almost smiled. Did you learn that from your world? All those optimistic sayings? Learned it from living. Same place you learn everything. The boat moved through dark water. The palace got smaller. Smaller. Gone. Zuko steered in silence. The stars came out. The ocean stretched everywhere. Naruto sat next to Azula, close enough to feel her warmth. She leaned into him after a while, exhausted. I don't know what comes next, she whispered. Neither do I. Does that scare you? He thought about it. Thought about all the battles, all the losses, all the times he'd had no idea what was coming. Used to, he said. Not anymore. You can't control everything. You just deal with what comes. One thing at a time. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to do that. Then we learn. Together. Together. She said it like a prayer. The boat moved on. The night wrapped around them. Somewhere ahead was uncertainty, danger, maybe death. But also maybe something else. Maybe a chance. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be. They sailed for 3 days. Naruto hadn't been on a boat that long since, he couldn't remember. Maybe never. The constant motion got under his skin at first, that feeling of nothing solid underfoot. But by the second day he'd found a rhythm. Sleep when he could. Watch the horizon. Talk when there was something to say. Azula was quiet most of the time. Not the controlled quiet from before. This was different. Like she was processing. Sorting through everything that had happened, everything she'd left behind, trying to figure out where to put it all. Zuko left her alone. Gave her space. He and Naruto took turns at the rudder, took turns sleeping, took turns watching the sky for ships that might be following. None came. That bothered Naruto more than it should have. Ozai wasn't the type to just let them go. There had to be something coming. He just didn't know what. On the third night, Isola found him at the bow. The stars were out. More than he'd ever seen, brighter than anything back home. The sky here was different. Cleaner. Like the war hadn't touched it yet. You're thinking about them again, she said. Sat next to him without asking. Your friends. Your world. Yeah. What do you think they're doing? Right now, I mean. He thought about it. Tried to picture Sakura, Kakashi, the others. Fighting, probably. Always fighting. Hoping I'm alive, he said finally. Looking for me. Not giving up. That must be nice. Having people who don't give up. It is. He paused. You have that now too? Zuko came back. She was quiet for a moment. He came back because he felt guilty. Because he heard about the fire and thought he should. She shook her head. That's not the same as what you have. That's not unconditional. Doesn't have to be unconditional to be real. He looked at her. He came back. That's something. That's a start. She didn't answer. Just stared at the water. I don't know how to do this, she said after a while. Be around people without calculating. Without planning. Without always thinking about what comes next. Then don't. Not yet. Just be here. Right now. That's enough. Here. She said it like she was testing the word. Right now. Yeah. The boat rocked gentle. The stars stayed steady. I don't think I've ever just been anywhere, she said quietly. Not really. There was always something to prepare for, someone to watch, some threat to predict. A pause. It's exhausting. I know. You know. She looked at him. You really do, don't you? Yeah. I really do. She leaned into him. Just slightly. Just enough. They stayed like that until Zuko called them for the watch change. On the fourth day, they saw land. A dark line on the horizon at first, then closer, until they could make out cliffs and trees and the white line of waves breaking on shore. The Earth Kingdom, Zuko said. Outer islands. No one lives here. Too rocky, too exposed. He glanced at them. Safe for now. They landed on a small beach, pulling the boat up onto sand that crunched underfoot. The cliffs rose above them, dark stone worn by wind and water. A narrow path led upward. Where does that go? Azula asked. Caves. Old ones. Fishermen used them centuries ago, before the war. Zuko started walking. We'll stay there tonight. Figure out next steps tomorrow. They climbed. The path was steep, loose rocks sliding under their feet. Naruto helped Azula more than once, her burned legs still healing, still weak. She didn't thank him. Didn't have to. The cave was deeper than it looked from outside. Big enough to stand in, with a natural chimney that let smoke escape if they needed fire. Someone had been here recently. There was ash in the pit, empty tins in the corner. Smugglers, Zuko said, seeing his look. They use these islands to move goods between the kingdoms. They won't bother us if we don't bother them. They settled in, built a small fire, ate dried fish and hard bread from the boat's supplies. For the first time since leaving the palace, Azula looked almost relaxed. The firelight softened her face, made her look younger. What happens now? She asked. Zuko poked the fire with a stick. We wait. I have people I can contact, but it takes time. They'll need to verify it's really me, really us. Too many spies, too many traps. How long? A week. Maybe 2. Azula nodded, accepting. Naruto watched them. Brother and sister, sitting on opposite sides of a fire, not talking but not avoiding each other either. It was something. Not everything. But something. Days passed. They fell into a rhythm. Morning meals, afternoon exploration of the island, evening fire, night watches. Simple. Quiet. Azula started talking more. Not about big things, not at first. Small things. The way the light hit the water at sunset. A bird she'd seen, unlike any in the Fire Nation. A memory of a beach she'd visited as a child, before everything. Zuko listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't judge. Naruto watched them both. Saw the way they moved around each other, careful, testing. Saw the moments when something real slipped through. Zuko's laugh at one of Azula's dry observations. Azula's almost smile when Zuko told a story about their uncle. Slowly, something was building. Fragile. Uncertain. But real. On the 6th night, everything shifted. They were sitting around the fire, the cave warm against the cold outside. Azula had been quiet all day, withdrawn. Naruto noticed but didn't push. Then she spoke. I killed someone. The words hung in the air. Zuko went still. Naruto waited. When I was 12. Her voice was flat. Controlled. A servant. She'd been there since I was born. Brought me meals, tucked me in, listened to my stories. I trusted her. She paused. Stared into the fire. One night I heard her talking to someone. Another servant. She was laughing about me. About how strange I was, how cold, how she couldn't wait to be assigned somewhere else. She said I was a monster. That everyone knew it. That my mother left because she couldn't stand to look at me. Naruto's chest tightened. I didn't mean to kill her. Azula's voice didn't change. I just got so angry. So hot. And fire came out. More than I'd ever made before. It just kept coming. And when it stopped, she was on the floor. Not moving. Not breathing. She looked up. Met their eyes. I told my father it was an accident. He said there were no accidents. Only choices and consequences. And then he told me I'd done well. That weakness couldn't be tolerated. That I'd learned an important lesson. She swallowed. I believed him. For years I believed him. The fire crackled. No one spoke. I don't know how to carry that, she said quietly. What I did. Who I was. All the years I spent being proud of being what he wanted. Her voice broke. I don't know how to be anything else. Naruto moved before he thought about it. Crossed the space between them. Sat next to her. Didn't touch, just was there. You were a kid, he said. A kid who'd been taught the wrong things by the wrong people. That's not your fault. I still did it. Yeah. You did. And you have to carry that. No one can carry it for you. He paused. But you don't have to carry it alone. She looked at him. Eyes wet, face open in a way he'd never seen. How? She whispered. One day at a time. One choice at a time. You can't change what happened. But you can choose what happens next. Across the fire, Zuko nodded. Slow. He's right, he said. I know. I've been there. Done things I can't take back. Hurt people I should have protected. He met his sister's eyes. The only way forward is forward. Trying to be different. Every day trying. Azula looked between them. Two people who'd seen her at her worst, heard her darkest confession, and hadn't run. I don't deserve this, she said. Either of you. Doesn't matter, Naruto said. You've got it anyway. She cried then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just silent tears tracking down her face. She didn't hide them. Didn't turn away. Naruto put an arm around her. Zuko moved to her other side. They sat like that, the three of them, until the fire burned low and the night deepened and the tears finally stopped. The next morning, everything was different. Not fixed. Not healed. But different. Azula was lighter. Not happy, that wasn't the word. But less heavy. Like she'd put down something she'd been carrying too long. They ate breakfast together. Talked about nothing. The sun was warm, the cave less dark in daylight. After, Zuko went to check the boat. Left them alone. Naruto and Azula sat on the rocks outside the cave, looking at the ocean. I meant what I said, she said quietly. Last night. About not deserving this. I know. But I'm going to try anyway. She looked at him. Try to be different. Try to be, whatever this is. Someone who isn't just what my father made. That's all anyone can do. She was quiet for a moment. What if I fail? Then you try again. What if I keep failing? Then you keep trying. He looked at her. That's what it means to be human. Not being perfect. Just not giving up. She held his gaze. Something passed between them. Something that felt like understanding. I don't know if I believe that, she said. Not yet. But I want to. Wanting to is the first step. She almost smiled. Did you learn that from your world too? Learned it from life. He paused. Same place everyone learns everything. She leaned into him. Just slightly. Just enough. They watched the ocean together. The waves kept coming. The sky kept being blue. The world kept turning. It wasn't a solution. Wasn't an ending. Just a moment. Two people, sitting together, not alone. Sometimes that was enough. That night, Zuko came back with news. I made contact. His face was serious. There's a group. Earth Kingdom Resistance. They've been fighting my father for years. They have resources, safe houses, people who can help. Azula straightened. And they'll take us? They'll take me. And him. He nodded at Naruto. They don't know about. They don't trust anyone from the royal family who isn't me. She flinched. Just barely. Then I'll convince them. It's not that simple. They've lost people to your father. To you. Your reputation. He trailed off. I know what my reputation is. Her voice was steady. I know what I've done. What I've been part of. I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for a chance. Zuko looked at her for a long moment. I'll try, he said finally. That's all I can promise. She nodded, accepting. Later, after Zuko had gone to sleep, Naruto found her sitting alone on the rocks. You okay? No. She didn't look at him. But I will be. Eventually. Maybe. He sat next to her. What are you thinking? She was quiet for a moment. I'm thinking about all the years I spent building walls. Telling myself I didn't need anyone. That being alone was strength. She looked at him. I was wrong. About so many things. Everyone's wrong about things. That's how you learn. And if I learn too late? Then you learn anyway. And you do better with whatever time you have left. She stared at him. That searching look. You really believe that, don't you? That it's never too late? Yeah. He met her eyes. I have to. Why? Because if I didn't, I would have given up on Sasuke years ago. On myself. On everything. He paused. Hope's not stupid. It's not naive. It's the only thing that keeps you going when everything else falls apart. She was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to hope, she said finally. I don't think I ever learned. Then learn now. With us. Us. She tested the word. Yeah. Us. You, me, Zuko. However this works. Whatever comes next. You're not alone anymore. She looked at him. In the darkness, her eyes were wet again. Okay, she whispered. I'll try. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. They sat on the rocks, watching the waves, holding on. Tomorrow there would be challenges. The resistance. Trust to build. A past to reckon with. A future uncertain. But tonight there was this. Two people, not alone. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be. The resistance camp was hidden in a valley. Mountains on 3 sides, forest on the 4th. You couldn't see it until you were inside it. Smart. They'd walked 2 days to get there. Azula quiet most of the way. Zuko leading, checking over his shoulder every few minutes like he expected attack. Naruto just walked. Let his mind empty. Watched the sky change. Now they stood at the edge of the camp. Tense. Cooking fires. People moving with purpose. All of them stopped now, staring. At him. At Zuko. At her. A man approached. Older, gray in his hair, one arm missing below the elbow. His eyes moved over them, stopped on Azula, stayed there. You brought her here. Not a question. Yes, Zuko said. The man looked at him. Long look. Then back at Azula. You know what she's done. I know. You know people in this camp lost family to her. Friends. Children. I know. The man was quiet for a moment. The whole camp was quiet. Waiting. Why? Zuko met his eyes. Because she's my sister. Because she's trying to be different. Because if we don't give people a chance to change, what's the point of any of this? The man stared at him. Then at Azula. Then at Naruto, who hadn't spoken. And you? He asked Naruto. Who are you? Someone from somewhere else. Doesn't matter. He paused. I've been with her for months. Seen her change. Seen her choose different. She's not what you think. The man's eyes narrowed. You vouch for her? Naruto thought about it. Thought about everything. The fire. The garden. The nights on the boat. The confession by the fire. Yeah, he said. I do. Another long silence. Then the man nodded. Just once. She stays on the edge of camp. She doesn't talk to anyone without permission. She doesn't go near the children. He looked at Azula. You breathe wrong, you're gone. Understand? She met his eyes. Yes. He turned and walked away. The camp slowly went back to its business. Watching, but not stopping. Azula stood frozen. Naruto touched her arm. Come on. Let's find somewhere to sit. They found a spot near the trees, far enough from everyone, close enough to see. She sat on the ground, pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. That was. She trailed off. Yeah. He hates me. That man. I could see it. He's lost people. Probably. To the war. To your father. He sat next to her. Give him time. And if time doesn't change anything? Then you deal with that. When it comes. She looked at him. Tired. So tired. How do you do it? She asked. Stay steady. Keep going. All the time. I don't. Not all the time. He picked up a small stone, turned it over in his hand. I break too. Just, not in front of people. Usually. When do you break? When I'm alone. When I think about everyone I've lost. Everyone I couldn't save. He tossed the stone. Watched it land. Jiraiya. My teacher. He died because of me. Because I wasn't strong enough. Fast enough. Good enough. She was quiet. Niji. My friend. He took a blow meant for someone else. Someone I was trying to protect. His voice got rougher. I still see it sometimes. When I close my eyes. The way he fell. I didn't know. Soft. No. You wouldn't. They sat in silence. The camp hummed behind them. Cooking. Talking. Living. I'm sorry, she said finally. For what? For all of it. For being part of a world that hurts people. For not being able to fix any of it. She paused. For adding to your weight, instead of helping you carry it. He looked at her. You're not adding. You're part of it now. The weight. But also the thing that makes it lighter. She frowned. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't have to. Days passed. Slow ones? Azula stayed on the edge of camp like she'd been told. People avoided her. Some glared. One woman spit on the ground when she walked past. Azula didn't react. Just kept walking. Naruto stayed with her most of the time. Not because she asked. Just because. Zuko came when he could, but he was busy. Meetings. Planning. Being useful. On the 5th day, a girl appeared. Young. Maybe 10. Dark hair, dark eyes, dirty face. She stood at the edge of the trees, watching them. Azula noticed first. Went still. The girl didn't move. Just watched. After a long moment, Azula spoke. What's your name? The girl didn't answer. Are you lost? Still nothing. Naruto watched. Didn't interfere. The girl took a step forward. Then another. Stopped maybe 10 feet away. You're the princess, she said. Voice small. Azula didn't deny it. My mama died in the fire. The girl's voice was flat. At the colony. Before we escaped. Azula's face went pale. She said the princess did it. The princess and her fire. The girl stared at her. Was it you? The silence stretched. Naruto could see Azula's hands shaking. I don't know, Azula said finally. Voice rough. I've done a lot of things. Hurt a lot of people. It could have been me. The girl looked at her for a long time. My mama used to say people could change. If they wanted to bad enough. She paused. Do you want to? Azula's eyes were wet. Yes. The girl nodded. Just once. Then she turned and walked away, back toward the camp, disappearing between the trees. Azula sat frozen. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Naruto waited. After a long time, she whispered. I don't know if I can do this. Do what? Be around them. Look at them. Know what I've taken. Her voice broke. That girl. Her mother. I probably did that. I probably burned her home, her family, everything. Probably. She flinched. But you didn't know. Not then. And you can't change it now. He paused. All you can do is be different going forward. That's it. That's all any of us can do. She looked at him. Broken. Lost. What if being different isn't enough? Then you try anyway. Because trying is the only thing that matters. That night, something happened. Naruto woke to shouting. Ran toward it. Found a group of people at the edge of camp. Torches. Angry voices. At the center, Azula. Backed against a tree. Face pale. Hands up empty. Showing she wasn't fighting. Don't care what Zuko says. A man was shouting. She's a murderer. She killed my brother. She should die. Others agreed. Voices rising. Crowd pressing closer. Naruto pushed through. Stood in front of her. Move, the man said. No. This isn't your fight. It is now. The man stared at him. He was big. Armed. Angry. You don't know what she's done. I know what she's trying to do now. That matters more. She killed people. So did I. Naruto's voice was quiet. Steady. In my world. In my war. I've killed. Probably people with families. People who were just following orders, just trying to survive. Doesn't make it right. But it makes me like her. The crowd shifted. Murmurs. I'm not saying forget. Naruto continued. I'm not saying forgive. I'm saying, if you kill her now, you become what you hate. You become the people who don't give anyone a chance to change. The big man stared at him. Something shifted in his face. Move, he said again. But different this time. Weaker. No. For a long moment, no one moved. The torches flickered. The night held its breath. Then someone else spoke. A woman's voice from the back. Let her go. Everyone turned. It was the girl. The one from the trees. She stepped forward, small in the torchlight. She's trying, the girl said. My mama said that's what matters. Trying. The big man looked at her. Then at Azula. Then at Naruto. He lowered his weapon. Get her out of here, he said. Before I change my mind. Naruto took Azula's arm. Pulled her away from the tree, through the crowd, back toward their spot at the edge of camp. She didn't speak until they were alone. You could have died, she whispered. Probably not. You don't know that. I know enough. He sat down. Pulled her down next to him. You okay? She shook her head. Couldn't speak. He put an arm around her. She leaned into him. Shaking. That girl, she said finally. She saved me. Yeah. Why? After what I probably did to her mother? Because she's better than revenge. Because she's choosing different. Same as you. Azula was quiet for a long time. I don't understand, she said. Any of this. Kindness. Forgiveness. Second chances. She looked at him. I don't know how to be that. You learn. One day at a time. What if I can't? Then you keep trying anyway. The next morning, Zuko found them. We need to talk. His face was serious. Naruto felt his stomach tighten. What happened? Word came. About your world. Zuko looked at Naruto. Someone here, they know things. Old stories. Spirit world stuff. They think there might be a way back. Naruto went still. A way back? A portal. Supposedly. In the mountains. Old. Not used for centuries. But if anyone could activate it. He trailed off. Chakra, Naruto said. They think my chakra could do it. Zuko nodded. Silence. Azula hadn't moved. Her face was blank. When? Naruto asked. Few days. Maybe a week. Depends on the route, the weather, everything. Naruto looked at her. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Can we talk? He asked. Alone? Zuko nodded. Walked away. They sat in silence. The camp waking up around them. People moving. Fires starting. Life going on. You should go, Azula said finally. Voice flat. I know. It's your world. Your people. They need you. I know. Then why are you still sitting here? He looked at her. Really looked. Because leaving you feels wrong. She flinched. Just barely. I'll be fine. Lie. They both heard it. No, you won't. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. He paused. But you'll get there. Eventually. With Zuko. With people here who are learning to see you different. And if I don't? Then you try again. She laughed. Broken sound. You and your trying. Works for me. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't want you to go, whispered, like it hurt to say. I know. But you have to. I know that too. She looked at him. Eyes wet. Face open in a way he'd never seen. Thank you, she said. For staying. For seeing me. For not giving up. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. I'll never forget you, he said. Whatever happens. Wherever I end up. I'll remember. Promise? Promise. 3 days later, they climbed the mountain. Zuko led. Azula walked beside Naruto. Neither spoke much. Didn't need to. The portal was at the top. A circle of stones, old, worn by weather and time. Nothing special to look at. But Naruto could feel it. Humming. Waiting. So this is it, he said. Yeah. Zuko nodded. We think you just stand in the middle. Focus your chakra. The portal should recognize it. Open. Naruto looked at Azula. She looked back. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Then don't say anything. I want you to know. I'm going to try. Really try. To be better. To be someone worth the faith you had in me. I know you will. You don't know that. Yeah. I do. She stepped forward. Hugged him. Tight. Real. He hugged her back. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. For everything. He didn't answer. Couldn't. She pulled back. Stepped away. He walked to the center of the stones. Closed his eyes. Reached for his chakra. It rose to meet him. Familiar. Warm. He thought of Sakura. Kakashi. Sasuke. Everyone waiting. He thought of her. Standing at the edge of the stones. Watching. He pushed. The world shifted. Pulled. Stretched. For a moment, he felt everything. The mountain, the sky, the stones, her. Then nothing. He opened his eyes. Mud. Rain. The smell of smoke and blood. The battlefield. He was back. Someone was shouting his name. Running toward him. Sakura. Tears on her face. Naruto! Naruto, you're alive! He caught her. Held her. Felt her shaking. I'm here, he said. I'm back. But part of him was still there. On the mountain. Watching her watch him go. He'd carry that forever. Months later, after the war ended, after everything changed, he found himself sitting alone one night. Looking at the stars. Sakura found him. You okay? Yeah. Just thinking. About what? He was quiet for a moment. About someone. From before. When I was gone. She sat next to him. Waited. Did you ever meet someone? He said slowly. Who you knew you couldn't save? Couldn't fix? Couldn't even really help? But you stayed anyway. Because leaving felt wrong. Yeah. She nodded. Sasuke. For years. What happened? I'm still here. So is he. We're figuring it out. She paused. Some things don't have neat endings. They just have next steps. One after another. He thought about that. Thought about her. Azula. The girl who'd been taught her whole life that love was weakness, that control was everything, that being alone was strength. He wondered where she was now. What she was doing. If she was okay. He hoped so. Come on, Sakura said. Everyone's waiting. Dinner's ready. He stood. Followed her back toward the lights. But part of him stayed there, under the stars, thinking of a garden and a pond and a girl who'd leaned on him in the dark. Some people you carry with you. Even when you leave. Even when you can't go back. That's just how it works. He walked toward the lights. Toward his people. Toward whatever came next. And somewhere, in another world, he hoped she was walking too,